Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our daily show now, Rebel Roundup. I'm your regular host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and joining us is our midweek co host, my friend from Regina, Saskatchewan, broadcaster, author, prickly pear when the NDP show up on her front lawn, Lise Merle. Lise, how's it going, buddy? I haven't seen you in, I don't know, 48 hours.
48 hours we've been apart. Did we ever have a great weekend? Well, hello, my beloved Sheila Gunn Reid, and hello, Rebel Fam. Do we ever have a smoke show of a lineup for you guys today? And it's just the best. Checking in on the list, going, oh, we're gonna have a lot to gnaw on today. So yeah, super excited to be here again.
Yeah, if we're not careful, this is gonna be a 2-hour show because the liberal, debate, the French language debate was last night, and, it was just a lot of, people agreeing with each other on the stage, which is generally not how a debate is supposed to go, but there were some things that were said on the stage that were, I think
Reason,
inadvertently truthful from Mark
yes,
Carney,
yes,
and then completely made up from Chrystia Freeland,
yes,
because
ma'am.
she's got a clip there that of all the things that didn't happen on that stage last night, that one didn't happen the mostest is. Like, it
Mhm,
was real bad. But we'll
mhm.
get to that. I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in the show and support the, I think, really important work that we do here at Rebel News, especially talking about the topics and the things that the mainstream media would love to gloss over. For example, this Carney business that we'll get to in a second from last night's French language debate, the media, they're already explaining it away. And that's not what the media is supposed to do. They're supposed to hold politicians to account, not act as press secretaries for them. So that's what we do here at Rebel News. We are giving you our hot takes, our spicy takes, our cold takes, and we want to hear from you too. So if you are watching us on Rumble, thank you for supporting a great free speech platform where you will get the uncensored version of Rebel News. So if you want to support us on Rumble, you can leave us a Rumble rant. If your Rumble rant is over the $5 US cutoff, we are obligating ourselves to read it and address it on air. But don't let that be the bar for entry. If we have time, we'll do our best to get to the ones that are under that $5 US cutoff as well. And as you know, every little bit helps because we'll never take a penny from Justin Trudeau. And how could we ever hold him to account? If we did, it would taint all the work that we ever did going forward. And, well, just make us a bunch of inadvertent press secretaries. And if you are watching us on YouTube, we are now remonetized over there thanks to some hard, detailed work by the editorial team at Rebel News. So you can leave us a super chat over there. And I think after the fact, if you missed the live stream, you can leave us a super thanks. And again, same rules apply over the $5 US cutoff. We'll read it on air. If it's under that, thank you so much. We'll do our best to get to it. So, very busy day, real tightly rolled cabbage roll of a day today. There's a lot of things stuffed inside of it. French language debate last night. Uh, and I think watching these things, it's important, French versus English, because Mark Carney has a real history of saying one thing in French and another thing in English, right? Like he says, "Oh, I support pipelines," now after like dancing on the grave of Northern Gateway. But then when he's doing French language interviews, he says, "Oh, but I would definitely give you folks a veto over a pipeline." So which one is it? Carbon tax Carney, got to pick a lane. But let us never forget that even though this appears to be a bit of a coronation with Mark Carney, Freeland is still in the mix here. And she said that well, I'll just let her tell the story. Um, and she wants us to believe that nobody else in this country has any experience with preschoolers who definitely didn't say the things that she's saying here. Let's watch.
A few weeks ago in Saskatoon, I met a little 4-year-old girl. She asked me whether I could prevent Trump from invading our country. And that's why I am standing to lead the Liberal Party and to become the next Prime Minister of Canada. Trump represents the greatest threat to Canada since World War II. He is threatening us with an economic war, and that's nothing new. The last time that he was president, He threatened us too, and at the end of the day, I succeeded in protecting our economy. But this time, Trump's threats are worse. He wants to turn Canada into the 51st state, and it's no joke. That is why he is supporting Vladimir Putin's criminal attempt to redraw Ukraine's borders. Trump wants to redraw our borders too. We need a leader who understands the seriousness of these challenges and how to face them. A leader that can respond and defend everyone in our wonderful country. I will fight for us. I will fight for Canada. And together, we will win.
I'll let you go first since you have more kids than I do and more experience with 4-year-olds.
Now, listen, not to say that she made that story up, but she 100% made that story up.
Completely.
Because no 4-year-old on the face of the earth gives a single care or even knows about geopolitical events to this level. Right? Like what mother in their right mind would say, now gather round, children, I have some terrible news. Donald Trump is like Hitler and is going to try and destroy Canada. Nobody does that to their kids. And this is like, it just goes to show you how disconnected Chrystia Freeland is from the rest of the country, from the normal people in the country, because she honestly thinks that we would believe that this story actually happened. And I tell you one thing, she even named the kid. Okay, she even named the kid. She even gave the kid a name. And everybody in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan with a kid with that name is now going, that didn't happen. That didn't, not it.
Not mine.
Not it. But yeah, the way that she sort of like the doomsplaining. We've had no bigger threat since World War II. What? I don't think this is quite the same. And redrawing borders is, I think this is really interesting. At my front door, I have a vintage school map. You remember the old school maps that you could pull down and they had the fancy overlays if you were really lucky? I keep one at my front door, and it's of all of Europe, and it shows the old geopolitical borders of Europe and how they changed post Soviet Union. And borders are redrawn all the time. All the time. Right. This is what happens in the world. And so to sort of hearken that to World War II level threat, any politician that's real worried about this, okay, that's real worried and putting a great big red warning flag on it, is somebody who is in on the take. And the only thing that they're threatened by is having their gravy train derailed by Trump's proposition. It's up to no politician. It's up to no politician whether Canada or the Western provinces or any province secedes from federation. It's up to the people of the provinces. So I just thought that was really interesting how she went into full panic spiral mode on Trump there.
If you read between the lines, she's basically accusing Donald Trump of being a Nazi when, that phone call is coming from inside the house. If you look at her, the history of her family, and even her standing, holding that Bandera scarf, which is, of course, a ultra Ukraine nationalist, Nazi adjacent group. But yeah, I absolutely do not believe that there was a 4-year-old out there who had been so scared by this little 4-year-old's liberal mother into confronting Chrystia Freeland as the great hope to stand up to Donald Trump. And, I'm concerned that this is a woman who invoked the Emergencies Act over honkening. So what would she do to us to confront somebody that she says is the greatest threat since World War II? That puts her hysteria over Trump into the next level. And if she is in the prime minister's office, she's got the levers of power to do some really crazy things to Canadians to combat somebody that she says is, an existential Nazi-style threat.
That we already know is capable of pulling those levers at her whim.
Exactly.
And not to suggest that a 4 foot tall human dog squeaker wouldn't be the best person to negotiate with Trump. Like that's a little bit of an overstatement. She is absolutely the wrong person to be working. Well, all of the liberals are
All
the
of them,
wrong
yes.
people to be like. There is no good choice in this. We should have none
Right.
of them negotiating on our behalf, and especially not multi-year deals that are going to take us right through the next conservative government. These are the wrong people to be negotiating. I think we're gonna talk about Melanie Joly
Yes.
collabing with her European counterparts on some of this. And again, this is not the party, and these are not the people that should be negotiating on our behalf. This is a moment where we need a ton of diplomacy and a ton of good neighbor energy to
Yeah.
get through this. And the liberals just are not that. They've spent the last 4 years insulting Donald Trump, denigrating Donald Trump, making fun of him, and he has not forgotten. He has not forgotten that. So
Right.
it doesn't matter if it's them negotiating. We're going to get a really, really bad deal. So if they gave a singular crap about Canada, Canadians, and its economy, they would politely bow out, like right now, and let
Yep.
the adults in the room do the heavy lifting when it
Yeah,
comes to America.
there's not a speck of goodwill
Nope.
between the Liberals and the Trump administration. I think the
No.
feeling's mutual. But getting back to Chrystia Freeland's remarks on the 4-year-old,
Mm.
of course she thinks that. Of course she thinks other people would believe that, because she comes from the side of the debate that thinks that 4-year-olds can make life-changing medical decisions.
Right.
Right? So she thinks they can make life-changing medical decisions. They can decide to sterilize themselves. Of course, they've got geopolitical opinions too. They're just little adults in these teeny tiny bodies. There's no developmental stuff happening there.
That's exactly right. That is what they believe children are. They believe children are all-knowing creatures when they walk out of the womb, instead of acknowledging that childhood is a precious and innocent state that should be defended and really protected for as long as possible. I mean, whether it didn't happen, which is what our guess is, and Christian
Definitely.
Freeland just got shown for an abject liar in front of the entire country, or whether it did, and there's some unhinged mothers on the left that
Sure there are.
that
That's
are
believable.
yes, that are traumatizing their children. Like, it's not good news. It was not a good story to share. I mean, it was just a fail. But if you're to read their emails this morning, like, each one of them were just, I mean, the back patting that is happening. Like, all of
high
them have
fives.
put out their shoulders, patting themselves on the back, and each one of them is saying the exact same thing. I did the best. Everyone is saying that I did the best. Here are all the people that have said that I did the best. I mean, it's this self-congratulatory circle jerk that's kind of stunning, because had they taken a look on X, or had they followed our coverage on Rebel News, they would have had a real different opinion. But again, these are not people that are at all interested in getting accurate, truthful feedback. These are people that are interested in living and existing in their own validation circles.
Let's go to Mark Carney, and then after Mark Carney, we'll go to how everybody on the stage agreed with each other, which is exactly why they couldn't have Ruby Dalla on the stage, is because she would be like, add some flavor to the mix, and she can righteously say, I had no part of any of this mess, right? She could say, I'm a liberal, but I didn't do this to you. See, so you have to get Ruby out of there, because she serves as a benchmark, as like a liberal on the outside looking into the decimation of the party. So they had to cook up some reason to get rid of her, because, if you had a reason, they would have shown evidence. But anyway, Mark Carney says now it's time to build pipelines in Canada and to transport Alberta energy from west to east to reduce reliance on the US. In the meantime, his party and he has spent a decade pushing anti-oil policies that has served to landlock Canadian oil and gas. I mean, the man danced on the grave of Northern Gateway, but let's not let's not bring that up. Let's listen to Mark Carney lie to Canadians and rewrite his own history.
It's possible to build an oil pipeline from Quebec to the Maritimes, from Alberta to displace our oil exports to the US. 70% of our oil comes from the US today. Our neighbor, no longer our friend, of course. I think it's an opportunity for us that we should seize. Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan have to agree, they have to buy in.
But Quebec right now, because Trump is threatening, but maybe Quebec will say now that Trump is threatening.
Well, that's a possibility. Yes. Everything's changed. It's quite possible that they now say yes. A final point, the federal government has to act quickly and rigorously to support a project like Energy East if it's in the interest of the whole country.
Freeland.
I'm bored.
The federal government has had 9 years to act quickly and rigorously to get this done. They've had more than enough time. And I think what's missing in his comments is when he says he believes that there's the capacity to build a pipeline from west to east through Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec to the Maritimes, is the level of bureaucratic regulation that would have to get through every single one of those provinces before it would be approved, right? So there are going to be environmental assessments, there are going to be First Nations consultations, there's going to be provincial regulations and consultations. What I hear is just Mark Carney saying we're going to kick the can down the field for so long so that it's no longer viable. That's what I hear him saying. Because if they were at all interested, again, they had the last 9 years to do this, to pull this off, and they didn't.
Well, and let's not even talk about he's missing the broader point. The Irving Oil Refinery, the majority of its crude oil comes from Saudi Arabia, then the Americans, and Alberta Oil is getting to that refinery, but it has to take an interesting route there. It goes from BC through the Panama Canal, up and around, all the way to the Irving Oil Refinery. Can you even believe that? And then we got to listen to these people lecture me about greenhouse gas emissions. There's nothing more greenhouse gas intensive than bunker fuel in a tanker to take oil and gas through the Panama Canal, because we can't get an east-west pipeline built or west-east pipeline built in this entire country. Like, it's crazy that we have the world's third largest proven oil reserves, and we can't go whoop with the pipeline. Very greenhouse gas light. No, we have to go to BC through the Panama Canal and back around. And the reason we're doing that is because they canceled Energy East.
How much you want to bet Brookfield has huge investments in oil tankers? How much you want to bet? We should look into that. Because that's the other part that we're not exploring, and not that we're not exploring, but that we should explore more, is how his relationships with all of these huge asset management companies influence his decision making. How does, because it absolutely does. We know as Canadians, like, he doesn't live here. He hasn't spent the last 10 years here. He wants to do this as a power grab. He doesn't care about Canada. He doesn't care about Canada. He cares about serving the shareholders in all of these humongous asset management companies, and his overlords at the World Economic Forum, and his overlords at the United Nations. So, I mean, Mark Carney, what? Just a joke of a man.
Well, of course. I mean, Brookfield Asset Management invested in pipelines in Brazil and the UAE, while dancing, Mark Carney literally saying, there was no business case for Northern Gateway pipeline.
Well, it's because Mark Carney hadn't figured out a way to profit from it yet.
Right. Wait, what's
Yeah.
interesting that he's the Trudeau whisperer. He can whisper in Trudeau's ear and say, let's block pipelines in Canada, which makes it, makes the business case for his pipeline somewhere else a little bit more profitable, right? If you can keep Canadian oil off the market.
Yeah, and that's a question that we should be asking too, is now that he's adopting this pro-pipeline stance, we must find out why. What part of his inventory stands to profit from this recent turn of events? Because don't tell me that there's not something in the background where they're making backroom deals, where his shareholders are going to profit. That is exactly what's happening. Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting point. I realize we're trying to get through the debate coverage, but I saw yesterday, I think it was Larry Brock, who that man must be the next AG. He must.
He's pretty great.
I think it was Larry Brock, but for sure Michael Barrett too. They were tweeting out there about Annette Vaucherin. She was the head of the Green Slush Fund, who left the room so that her colleagues could vote her company's money, and then she came in and they left the room, and then they voted for their colleagues. They just were like, I'll leave the room so there's no conflict of interest.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I'll be right back, and then I'll just give you some money. Well, guess who topped up her donations to which campaign?
Whose?
She juiced the campaign donation. She donated the max amount to Mark Carney. So if you think that the corruption issue will be dealt with going forward with Mark Carney in procurement and the Green Slush Fund, oh, no. The Green Gravy Train, they know he's our dude, and we're going to make sure that he is getting elected. I saw I think Michael Barrett tweeted out about it yesterday, the max donation, it's already been reported. So isn't that interesting?
That's insane. That's absolutely, Canada needs Doge so bad. Canada needs Doge.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh, here we go.
No, keep going.
Oh,
is this it?
Oh, here we go.
I don't know. Maybe this is something else. Oh, is this Annette Vaucherin? No, this is something else. That's another scandal I haven't gotten around to reading about. I'll do that when we get off the air. It never ends. It never ends. Okay, so let's keep going. Apparently, Christian Freeland and Mark Carney both agree that Mark Carnage, both agree, of course they do, because it was just a bunch of people agreeing with each other on the stage last night, that we should threaten to cut off energy to America to push back against President Trump's tariffs. Oh, but it's not your energy to cut off. And you cannot throw our jobs on the bonfire of your bad negotiation tactics. But let's listen.
François Legault is talking about possible closing off hydroelectricity exports to the States. Now, in your plans of counterattacks against Mr. Trump, the exports of electricity, could they be cut?
I welcome that idea by Premier Legault. It's very important to work with provincial leaders on tariffs, and it's extremely good that he's ready to use anything.
Well, you have to keep all your cards close to your chest. I agree with what Krista said about this. It can include semiconductors, oil, and other Canadian resources. Those are assets that Americans need.
They really do want to punish the Americans for making them look like a bunch of buffoons. They really do want to punish the Americans. Yep.
Yeah, and they don't actually even care if there are Canadian jobs at risk here. You just can't cut off energy to somebody that we sell to and think that doesn't affect the upstream jobs. Like, if there's nobody to buy the widgets, they lay off a shift at the widget factory. But they don't get this because they've always been in government.
Yep. No, they would have no, and you know what? It's not that they don't know, it's that they don't care. It's that they don't care. So what if 100,000 guys lose their jobs in the oil patch? So what? We're going to come along with it with a solar panel idea. We're going to come along with some windmills or some new fandangled green thing that Mark Carney's friends dreamed up, and they'll be right back to work in no time at all. Never mind that none of their initiatives ever work.
Right.
They don't produce the energy that North Americans need to maintain the quality of life that we have. But no, they honestly, they just don't care. They just don't care.
By the way, I dug up that tweet while we were talking.
Mm.
Of Annette Visharin. What day did Mark Carney announce? The 21st of January? Like, she was like ready to pull the chute on her $1,750 max donation to the campaign of Mark Joseph Carney. And that's the lady who is the head of the Green Slush Fund, who stepped out of the room while her colleagues voted her company's money. And then she got in there and voted her colleagues' company's money to the tune of $200 million plus. It was just a big green money laundering initiative. And she's right in the middle of the conflicts of interest scandal. And guess who won't tell us about his own conflicts of interest? Mark Carney. Nothing's going to change.
Same guy. That's pretty damning, though. That is a pretty damning revelation right there, because it just confirms that what we're all suspecting is that they're all in bed together, and this is just going to be a continuation of the gross and rampant corruption of every part of the government of Canada's operations in these last 9 years.
Yep. David and I, we're working on our fantasy football cabinet. So as you know, I have had, I've had Michael Barrett. We've selected him to be the Doge guy because he's so deep into uncovering the corruption in government with Randy Boissonnault, with the Green Slush Fund. I know it sounds boring to put a guy like him at procurement, but I think you need somebody with that sort of forensic mind to be like, turn procurement, which sounds like we're always buying stuff and giving out money, turn it into the Doge department. And then Larry Brock, of course, at AG. And I'm going to start a little vision board for myself in the office here, where I'm shuffling around papers about who in my fantasy cabinet will be there.
We should do this. We should do this in public. Like 100%. We should do this online, Sheila. We should
I'm taking submissions.
100%. Who would be in charge of going through all of the books? Who would be in charge of going through all of the books?
Like first of all, we need to get rid of the Auditor General. I don't know what that guy does. Right. He's like, whenever he's called to testify, he's like, "What do you want me to do?" I'm like, "I don't know, your job." Like, he literally said, like, I didn't get any complaints. So what do you want me to do? And we're like, you have to wait for a complaint to audit something? Why don't you just like do what the CRA does to people? And I'm like, I don't like your face. Like, pull your file and just go through it.
Same with the ethics commissioner, right? Same with the ethics commissioner. I'm not sure he knows what that means. No. I don't think he knows what that means.
What's his name? Finkenstein?
Conrad something? Conrad
von Finkenstein. He was the guy. He was the guy who was like, "What do you want me to do? Investigate ethics?" I'm like, "What? What is it exactly that you do around here, good sir?" Like, I don't know.
DEI surveys, DEI training. That's what he does.
He testified that he investigated 1 day of Randy Boissonnault's text messages, like just one day.
1 day.
And he investigated and found nothing.
And trusted. Who was it? Stephen Anderson. When Stephen Anderson was like, it was a typo. 9 times it was a typo.
This is the same one. The same one.
Commissioner's like, no, sounds right. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. While Randy Boissonnault was in Vancouver on a cabinet retreat, Stephen Anderson was texting Randy on the West Coast, but it was definitely an autocorrect error. Yes, I know. Every time that I'm trying to talk to my colleagues who have completely different names, it just autocorrects to Randy every single time. I don't know what's wrong. New update on my phone, I guess. Freeland. she says we can't allow the kind of comments about immigrants that we're hearing coming out of the US at the moment. That we should deport people who are here illegally. And that includes people from the rainbow spectrum of ethnicities. If you're not there legally, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Anyway, let's listen. Again, why they couldn't have Ruby on the stage. Sorry.
I would say very quickly that we can't allow the kinds of comments about immigrants that we're hearing coming out of the US at the moment. We can't have that in Canada. It is very important that we say it because some people want us to say the same kinds of things. That's unacceptable.
So basically just running on an anti-American platform. Whatever they're doing in the United States right now is absolutely unthinkable to the Liberal Party of Canada. Whatever they're doing or saying or thinking in the United States of Canada or United States of America cannot be imported to Canada. That is not what we want. When so many Canadians right now are looking at what Donald Trump is doing in America going, I want that for me. Like, I want that for me. I want that for us. This is the direction that we want our country to go in. But it's unthinkable to the Liberals. It's absolutely unthinkable. But yeah, they're running on an anti-American platform, and that's the short and long of it.
Well, and do they think we're stupid? Do they think we can't tell the difference between legal immigration and illegal migrants? Because illegal migrants are plugging up the healthcare system. We're putting them up in hotels. They're breaking the immigration system. They're loose in the country. They're trafficked, by the way. And they've broken the laws to be here. I do not confuse those people with the people who have done things the right way to get into our country. I do not confuse legal immigrants with the people who have abused the foreign student program to get here.
Yes.
I don't confuse people who are doing things the right way with people who are temporary foreign workers who get here and then claim refugee status, when the people who are temporary foreign workers are generally unskilled workers whose jobs could be easily filled by unemployed Canadian students. We're not stupid, Christia. We know the difference. And so when we say, yeah, there are foreign criminals in this country, and by virtue of them being in our country illegally, they are participating in criminality. Try and come back the right way, or not at all. Whatever, I don't care. But as I said, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yep, that's right. And just the stresses on our infrastructure, on our healthcare services, on our education services, we're in a housing crisis. How come you think that is, Christia? Could it be the 5 million people that are here that shouldn't be right now, putting stressors on our housing and our healthcare and our education systems?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying that Canada needs to be adopting a lot of the initiatives that America has shuffled in these last 6 weeks, and I'm going to keep saying it until we start seeing Canadian politicians follow suit.
Oh, well, and I want this to be a place where legal immigrants can access the Canadian dream. Like, if you come here legally, you follow the rules, you're here to work, you're here to, build our economy. I want you to be able to afford a house. I want you to be able to access our healthcare system. But you're coming here the right way, and the people who are coming here the wrong way are making it impossible for you to succeed as well. But Christy Freeland doesn't care about those people. She thinks those are all the same people, which actually feels slightly bigoted. Christia, by the way.
Well, yeah, another example of her being absolutely completely out of touch with the reality that Canada is facing right now.
Okay, we've got 2 more clips from the debate. This one, completely hypocritical from Freeland. She says that the Liberals are the party of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I know.
I completely agree. Our party is the party of the Charter. And as Prime Minister, I will always, always uphold the Charter. I believe that this is not the time for us to have divisions and conflicts within our country. What I'm feeling within conversations is that Canadians are more united than ever, united in the idea that we're a bilingual country.
Nothing about that made sense. Like absolutely nothing about that made sense. This is the party that froze bank accounts
illegally,
shut down the Freedom Convoy, floated hate speech legislation, which would absolutely tamp down any social media activity in Canada forever. The censorship regime lives and breathes because of the Liberal Party of Canada, and she is the and P.S. Don't even get me started about parental rights. Also, this is the party that says parents don't have rights. And
right.
And she upholds herself and the Liberal Party as the party of the charter. Take it, put it in a burn barrel and burn it, and that's how much they appreciate and uphold the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada. This is the party that didn't hesitate to violate all of the rights of Canadians.
Off the top of my head, as she was talking, C11. C18, so online news and online streaming, which gives the power of the bureaucrats to control what you can see and say on the internet. It it had the, I think probably intended consequence of limiting what news Canadians have access to in the manner in which they choose to access that news, which is Facebook. And Instagram. C63, as you mentioned, the Online Harms Act, which actually made a provision for pre-crimes, hurt feelings. If what you say may cause detestation. That's literally all I do with this government, is say things that might cause people to dislike the government. And it also could put you under house arrest with an ankle monitor for being a prickly pear on the internet. And then, of course, the Emergencies Act, which was dubbed illegal, and she cackled as she froze the bank account. So listen, sister, I don't believe you care a lick about the charter. I doubt you even know what it says.
Yep, that's a true story. She's a liar. Liar.
She is. Now, this one. And this is the one that CBC and all the people are running cover for. They're saying he misspoke. But I've literally never misspoke and said that I agreed with a terrorist organization. Like, I've never said, you know what? ISIS has got a lot of things to say, and I'm willing to listen. But that was Mark Carney's so-called misspeak on this issue. Let's let him hear it. You could see the second this happened, every Conservative MP was tweeting about it, because it's so insane. But I think he accidentally told the truth here, based on the lack of action dealing with the hate mobs on the streets of Canada every single week. So let's listen to Mark Carney.
Hamas. We all agree on Hamas, on a two-state
No, we don't agree with
solution.
Hamas. No, we're against Hamas.
We're against
absolutely.
Hamas. We are. And we're in favor of a two-state solution. But it must be a Palestinian state, a viable state, a united state that exists next to a peaceful and secure Israel.
Hamas.
And Hamas on a two-state...
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't agree with Hamas. Was that Frank Bayless? Sorry, was that Frank Bayless who saved him? Who was like, no, not we. No, you, maybe not we.
But those two ideas can live together, right? We agree with Hamas and we agree with the two-state solution. Like, those two ideas can live hand in hand. But what we've seen by their startling lack of inaction about what's happening in Canada, and it feels so bizarre, because 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we would have thought that public shows of support for terrorism in Canada would be absolutely unthinkable. And in the last several years, they've accelerated to the point where it's almost commonplace. So it wouldn't be beyond Mark Carney to try and court some of those votes with a little bit of a slip of the tongue. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and this idea that there should be a two-state solution, there is one. It was Israel and Jordan. And when he says, "Oh yes, it can exist in peace alongside Israel with a secure Israel," yeah, there was a security fence between Gaza and Israel. And when they're not burning the crops by putting up fire balloons, they're trying to tunnel their way into snatch Israelis from the street. And then they launch the terror attack from Gaza. They've tried living in peace. It's not working. So what is your solution, Mark? So you're going to reward the terrorists with their own state. I guess terrorism pays. Murders pay.
It does in Canada.
Yeah.
It does in Canada. We've seen
Yeah, just ask Omar Khadr. Yes. Yeah. Yes. $10.5 million to Omar Khadr.
It's the Liberal Party of Canada funds these groups as their proxy sort of armies, as their mercenaries. We've seen them do this in Palestine. We've seen them do this more recently in Ukraine. We've seen them do this with the Rainbow Mafia. This government funds proxy armies to fight wars on their behalf, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was what Mark Carney had up his sleeve.
Now that's all the debate coverage we have. We have to go into 51st state stuff, but I've got an ad read. Can you see the chat, or you want me to do the chat?
Where am I looking?
At the it's fine.
Okay. I can't see it at the bottom of my screen, and it annoys me to no end. But yeah, do go on.
I'll do it. Okay, and then we'll do. I think we have a Rebel ad break after, and then we'll go into Trump tariff mania. This one is for positive. If you have a dog, we've all been there. The pup goes from full of energy to sick and miserable in an instant and at the worst of times. Then we're calling vets in the middle of the night or on weekends trying to find a clinic that will take us in. It's a terrible way to manage your dog's health, not to mention your stress levels and your monthly budget. You know, the commercialization of Catholic holidays has really sent me to the vet a lot lately, between the cat trying to eat lilies and the dog enjoying Halloween candy. It's just been a real nightmare. Anyways, that's why people are getting the pet emergency kit by Positive, and that's spelled the cutesy way, Positive. So PAWSITIVE. It contains critical medications and supplies that can not only keep you out of the vet office, but even save your dog's life. Their kits contain critical medications like activated charcoal, styptic powder, and more, and might save your dog's life. Head over to positive.com and use the code STUDIO to get 50% off your pet emergency kit. Then we've got a quick chat from Guillotine Press, gives us $10. I think this is a super chat. So that's good news. That tells me that we are still monetized on YouTube, which is always a threat. It says, how many WEF handlers can you have on a debate stage at one time? Sad. Isn't that the truth?
Yep. 4.
Yep.
At least 4.
At least 4. And watching that, it's very clear why Ruby Jallow wasn't there, because she has been tough on immigration. And look, I've been tough on Ruby Jallow, that's for sure. But I'm willing to show her some grace, despite her propensity for just over-filtering every image of her that exists out there. It's a real Instagram disease. But outside of that, if she was having some sort of mugged by reality come to Jesus moment like Tulsi Gabbard, okay. And they couldn't have Ruby on that stage because while Freeland is saying, oh, you guys are being racist about immigrants, you guys are sounding Trumpy, and there's Ruby like, what do you mean racist? What do you mean racist? Little white lady with a Nazi family history. What do you mean racist, by the way? I think the lady doth protest too much. So yeah, of course they couldn't have had Ruby on there because they're all responsible for this mess. They're making the Kamala Harris argument why they should be responsible for fixing the mess that they created and given another shot. And Ruby could say, no, I'm your one. I didn't do this.
Ruby needs to go scorched earth on the Liberal Party of Canada. She needs to absolutely start singing like a canary, start telling all the secrets. And if the Conservatives were real smart, man, they should be cozying up to Ruby right now. Ruby, I think, with a little bit of a course correction, walking back on some of her crazier ideas and laying off the filters, I think would find a warm embrace in some of the conservative circles in Canada. So,
as I was saying to David yesterday, I don't think Ruby's that far apart on particularly social issues from
I don't think so
either. From somebody like Michelle Rempel. And Michelle Rempel's got a strong home in the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
You know what, Ruby, I would love to see you run for mayor of Brampton.
Yeah.
She would be a real challenger to get rid of Patrick Brown.
Yes, you're right.
And
She's been Kardashianized.
They all are.
She's
all
watched
do.
a couple too many episodes of The Real Housewives of Dubai. That's what happened to Ruby. But it's fine. I mean, it's
whatever.
fine. We can deal with it. Yeah, we can deal with it. I mean,
You know what? If I can look at Matt Gaetz, I can look at her. That's fine. He's perpetually startled looking.
oh, there it is.
There it is.
That's 2 hours of glam right there, people. Okay,
I thought that was AI the first time I saw it.
That's 2 hours of glam and 17 filters is what that is. Yeah.
I'm just happy she still has a nose. All right. Do we have an ad break, Olivia? Okay, we'll come back on Trump Tariff Media.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
I've got a better idea than tariffs. What would an America First strategy for Canada-U.S. trade look like? Is there room for a Trump-style mega deal even bigger than Greenland? A dozen years ago, I wrote a best-selling book called Ethical Oil, The Case for Canada's Oil Sands, which made the liberal argument that the oil sands are the fair trade coffee of the world's oil industry. In my new book, Deal of the Century, I look at Canada-U.S. trade through an America First lens, and I come to the conclusion that far from putting tariffs on Canadian oil, Donald Trump should ink a 50-year, $13 trillion deal to buy all 170 billion barrels of Canada's oil sands, shutting out China and giving Canada the means to pay for a rebuilt military. And as for yanking Trudeau's chain, well, he'll be gone as prime minister in a few weeks, but I've got a better suggestion for how Trump can slap Trudeau around a bit without hurting America's economic interests. That's in the book too. Get your copy now at dealofthecenturybook.com. And trust me, Trudeau doesn't want you to see this.
It's a good book.
I'm going to order the book. We should have a little book club. That's what we should do. We should have a book club. I'd host a book club.
Oh, I would too.
We'll go through all the books that's on the Rebel Library bookshelf. We should do that. Let's do that. We're going to start a book club. The end. Okay, everybody look forward to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty great idea. And, there are other books in that realm that I read that, like maybe people would want to hear. Would you be interested in a Rebel News book club? Rebel News viewers, let us know.
In the chat. Put it in the chat. If it's a yes, then we're going to run with it. If we get enough yeses, we'll run with it. But I love that idea because I love talking ideas, right? I love talking ideas and I love books. You know me, Sheila, with my little typewriter. Just just writing. That's P.S. This is something that maybe our viewers don't know is I'm a typewriter enthusiast and I'm forever banging out ideas on my typewriter. So yeah, book club. That'd be fun. That'd be super fun. Get
Oh,
everybody on the same page.
yeah. And it's funny because people are like, "Where did you get that weird turn of phrase from?" One of the first books I read when I started working at Rebel News was not Ezra's books. I had already read those. But I read William F. Buckley Jr.'s The Lexicon. And
Mm.
it's just a book. It's called a cornucopia of words. And it's just a book that if you're thinking of a word, it's a better, funner word. And I found it
Oh.
has been really helpful. And sometimes I get like, what people will say, like, where did you get that turn of phrase? Either it's one of my mom's weird old farmer words, or I'm relying on the lexicon. Anyway, just
We'll put that in the
we
book club. We'll put
we'll
that
put
in
it in
the
the
book.
book
We'll
club.
put it on the list.
It will improve your writing, I will tell you that. All right, let's go into Trump tariff 51st state. Trump says the tariffs are coming March 1st, which is mere days away. We've got a video of this. He says it'll be very good for his country. Maybe. But let's just hope they stay off oil and gas, because further down, he says some very nice things about Canadian oil and gas. We'll get to that in a second.
Next week, there's a key deadline for your Canada and Mexico tariffs. I believe those countries have done enough on the border to stop those from taking effect. And for President Macron,
we're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. We've been mistreated very badly by many countries, not just Canada and Mexico. We've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools, because anybody that would sign documents like they signed, where they were able to take advantage of the American people, like has happened over the last long period of time, except for a little 4-year period that took place 4 years ago. But anybody that would agree to allow this to happen to our country should be ashamed of themselves. No, the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years. And I'm not even blaming the other countries that did this. I blame our leadership for allowing it to happen. I mean, who can blame them if they made these great deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on manufacturing, on just about everything, every aspect that you could imagine they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this? So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make up a lot of territory. All we want is reciprocal. We want reciprocity. We want to have the same. So if somebody charges us, we charge them. It's very simple, but it'll be very good for our country. Our country will be extremely.
Okay, so that's why I think we're not going to get tariffed on oil and gas, because he said he wants reciprocity. So if somebody tariffs us, we'll tariff them back way harder. We're not tariffing Canadian oil and gas. We're actually selling it to them at a reduced rate. And he has hinted, well, not hinted, I mean, he said that Keystone XL will go forward. Actually, it was one of his first things that he did when he became president the first time around, is he signed off on 2 pipelines right away. The Keystone XL, which had been killed by the Obama administration and then left to die by the Notley government here in Alberta, but also the Dakota Access Pipeline Project, which was subject to crazy opposition, just the same Greenpeace foreign funded nonsense, but it wasn't foreign funded because it was coming out of San Francisco in the United States. And he basically said, no, you guys are going to move along. Or the army's coming, or the National Guard, or whatever. And that was it. Like, he just had a zero tolerance for not getting these energy projects done, thanks to activists. And so he, maybe we can bring up the tweet.
Yeah, he was
Daniel.
just on to it. Yeah, he was
go
just, I was just going to say, he was on to this yesterday. It says our country is doing really well. Keystone XL pipeline that was viciously jettisoned by the incompetent Biden administration should come back to America and get built now. And Danielle Smith and Scott Moe, the Western premiers, were on this so fast. Agreed, President Trump, that project should have never been canceled. Lower fuel costs for American families is a big win. Let's scrap these inflammatory tariff ideas and focus on getting shovels in the ground right away. Just perfect. Like an absolutely
Yes.
pitch perfect response to what he said. And this is his, I do believe this is his way of throwing a lifeline to the Western provinces that he knows are dependent on that American trade for everything that we do out here. I think that this is his lifeline to us, and man, is it appreciated. But it does sound as though all of the steel tariffs, the aluminum tariffs, the manufacturing, the cars, the car parts, the Ontario-centric tariffs are still a go. And I don't think that he's going to back off quick because of the antagonistic approach that Doug Ford and others have taken.
I mean, even on the debate stage last night, they're saying, oh, we cut off energy exports. And then Trump's like, actually, we're going to build more pipelines to export more energy. And the Western premiers are like, yeah, we are. It's like we're living in two different countries.
Another thing that happened on the debate stage that I thought was so interesting was Freeland saying that Teslas should have 100% tariff. Tesla's coming in. Now, listen, not to say that your beef with Elon Musk shouldn't impact the economic drivers in Canada, but it should not. Your beef with what's happening in America made their choice. And you must respect that choice. That you don't like Elon, that you have a beef with him, that you have a beef with Trump, should not impact tariffs coming over the board because there's such a disparity. I mean, Canada has 40 million consumers. Okay, so if the buying power of Canada shuts off to America, America loses 40 million consumers. If it's the other way around, Canada loses 350 million consumers. I mean, the disparity is just so huge. And playing this hardball, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Just in terms of the sheer size difference between our countries, we are in a very precarious position, and antagonizing them the way that the Liberal Party and the liberal, the neocon liberal premiers have, is not going to serve us.
Well, and pick a lane. Like, are we not supposed to, at least according to these liberals, be no longer buying gas and diesel powered vehicles by 2035? Who is the biggest producer of these, or at least probably the most effective producer of gas or of electric vehicles? Most well known? Teslas. They don't have the you better take a fire extinguisher with you problem that the Chevy Volt had. It boggles the mind that they're all for green, except when the green guy takes an unpaid job streamlining the American administration.
Yes, and that's exactly what, it just goes to show you how petty they are. These are petty, vindictive, awful people, these liberals. And the faster that they're shown the door, the better for us Canadians. But yeah, go Keystone XL. Can't wait.
Any other companies doing business? Any other people tangentially related to a company that now works in the American administration? Do they have to worry about some sort of jingoistic Canadian boycott directed at them? It is. I mean, there's no other word for it except petty, and not really poorly thought out, actually, when you think
about it. Yes, it is.
Okay. The reason I want to address this is not because of Daniel Smith's remarks. Oh, here comes my cat. I just saw him come in the office out of the corner of my eye. Anyways, oh, there he is. I'll just grab him before he knocks something over, and then I'll throw him out. Anyways, Premier Smith Hi, here's Trigger. He's feeling very well after a very expensive vet bill for eating lilies. Premier Smith reacting to a billboard suggesting that Alberta should become the 51st state, stating that she sees no enthusiasm for the idea, while noting a rise in Canadian patriotism. I want to talk about this as just like a side quest of something else. I'm going to throw my cat out. So if you want to get off me and just go to the Premier, that'd be great. Thank you.
This billboard on Highway 2 north by Bowden. Mm-hmm. I was speaking with Peter Downing on the weekend, one of the folks behind it, and he suggested that they deliberately picked the picture of you at Mar-a-Lago with President Trump to isolate your position between support for the U.S. and maybe some of the differences of opinion with Team Canada on the Council of the Confederation. I was just wondering if you had received any reaction from it and what your personal reaction is to not only the billboards themselves, but this kind of concept of Alberta becoming a 51st or 50th and a half state.
I see no enthusiasm for that notion. What I have seen is the opposite. I have seen so many Canadians and Albertans in particular reaching out and saying, we got to put Canada first. We've got to tear down interprovincial trade barriers. We've got to find new markets. We've got to support each other in building new pipeline infrastructure. I've seen a sea change in attitudes across the entire country. I'm very, very encouraged by that. So I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm for what the billboard says or what the president has been talking about. And that's why I say let's continue to be the U.S.'s best trading partner. Let's continue to be a sovereign nation, and let's get to talking about the things that are going to make us both stronger. I think that there's a real opportunity for us to talk about a North American fortress, that Canada and the U.S. together, we can make sure that we've got energy security, national security, international security, food security, and working in partnership together with building on the kind of trade relationships we've had in the past. I think that that's the pathway forward.
Economic union like the EU?
Well, and talk to anybody in the EU, they don't much love Brussels. So I think that what I do like is that we have built through various phases, whether it was the Auto Pact, followed by Free Trade Agreement, followed by NAFTA, followed by CUSMA. We have a virtually tariff-free relationship with the United States. I think it's something like 99% tariff-free. And so are there ways that we can improve that mobility, buy more goods from the U.S., have them buy more goods from us? I'm open to talking about that. And I hope we can get onto that part of the conversation very soon, because that's a lot more constructive.
So what else could she honestly say? She is a Canadian premier within Confederation. What else could she say except, I hope there are no tariffs. I hope we can build a stronger economic union, buying more goods from each other, more free trade. Of course. I mean, what else could she say as a premier? But to say there's no enthusiasm seems like a understatement. I think it's like 1 in 3 Albertans are like, yeah, if I could just have the same amount of net worth, if my dollar were at parity, I would consider it.
Yeah. Well, she could say what the Prime Minister of Greenland said when Trump started floating the idea of Greenland becoming part of America. The Prime Minister said that is up to the people of Greenland to decide.
Sure.
That is what he said. And I think that especially as it pertains to the Western provinces, where there has been a growing army of residents saying, right, we know that Confederation is not working for us. We've known for a very, very long time that it's not working for us, and we are convinced that it will never work for us. The way that our elections are set up, our judiciaries are set up, the way that our Senate seats are set up. I think that there's a great many Western Canadians who are saying, right, we just want a path away from those who are abusing us.
Right.
And whether it's just leaving Canada and going on it by ourselves, or joining the United States, to say that there is no enthusiasm, I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I think that there's more than a little enthusiasm for it.
Now, the side quest I wanted to go on before I was so rudely interrupted by my cute but annoying cat was the billboard itself that they asked her about. And the billboard is put up by Spot Ads. And it is at Bowden, Alberta, which is like one of the most conservative places on the planet. One of the most conservative voting regions in the entire country. And the billboard itself caused controversy. The reason I know the billboard itself caused controversy, at least on Reddit, not because I'm on Reddit, I avoid Reddit like the plague because I feel it might be a plague, is because Rebel News does business with Spot Ads. they host our billboard along the side of Highway 2. And Spot Ads, Josh, had to send an email to all of his customers explaining why they might be contacted by crazy people. Because, and this is the innocuous billboard. You can disagree with this billboard, but what it doesn't have is hate speech. No calls to violence. None of that. There's not profanity. There's nothing graphic about it. It says, tell Danielle, let's join the USA, americafund.ca. That's it. So the Reddit mob went after Josh to get him to take the billboard down. Now, to Josh's credit, he did not. He was unwavering, and good for him, because it is tough when you're not in the political nightmare on a day-to-day basis where everyone's yelling at you all the time. It can be a little rattling because you're like, I just want to put up billboards and run a billboard company, and if they've got money and it doesn't break the law, I'll put up the billboard, which is what you want. You don't want people deciding I won't do business with you based on your politics. And media, which is what that is protected in the charter. And that's where Josh came down on this. He said, you're not going to bully me. Because a billboard is media that you consume, it's a protected charter right. I'm not discriminating. And so what they did after that was they went after Josh's customers. And so Josh had to alert his customers, the crazies could contact you, and I'm very sorry, but this is why. And this is why you as a customer can count on Josh going forward, because he believes in your right to express yourself if it falls within the law, which it does. And I'm proud to say that Josh is unwavering in that, and good for him. And
we need more brave people in the world that are going to allow these conversations to happen. So just like Josh, this coming weekend, there's an event in Regina that poses this exact same question. One of the Conservative parties of Saskatchewan is holding an event at a place called the German Club. Full disclosure, I'm a invited and paid speaker to this event. And this is when it was discovered by some of the woke mob on the internet that we were just asking the question, should Saskatchewan become the 51st state? We're not asserting that it should, but we're just asking the question. We're having the conversation. We're taking the temperature of the people of Saskatchewan. When the woke mob found out about this, they started to plan a protest. The police got involved, and this is why I have to travel with private security now in Saskatchewan. Because
in Saskatchewan, because of this stuff, because they just, they want to deplatform you instead of coming to hear what is being said. And, that's the thing, go and listen to the concerns of the other side, because if you think you've got a better answer than they have, offer it. But you don't even know what everybody's concerns are, and you want to make sure that they're never heard ever anyway. It's the worst kind of censorship.
No, it's really awful. And just huge props to the Regina German Club who is hosting the event, who had much the same response as Scott. They said, we rent banquet spaces. It's not our business what people as long as there's no hate speech, as long as there's no threats of violence, we're good to go. And if you don't like it, you can shove it. And they did say, we're reporting all of the threats to the police, the end. We're not playing this game. So just huge shout out to the Regina German Club. If you're ever in Regina, come for some schnitzel.
Yes.
Come for some schnitzel.
Spot Ads, a company that will not bow to the mob. So if you need to do business with a company that is stress tested, I think is the right word, there's Spot Ads in Alberta. All right, let's just go into this one last thing about Trudeau, and then we'll jump ahead to big congratulations to Jagmeet Singh today. He's big.
Yes.
Congrats to him. But first, Financial Times. This is, I'm just bringing it up out of the corner of my eyeball. It's an exclusive to the Financial Times. Peter Navarro, one of the U.S. president's closest advisors, is pushing for the U.S. to remove Canada from the Five Eyes intelligence sharing network, which also includes the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. This is honestly a long time coming. But the Biden administration would probably have nothing to do with it. But the idea that we have a political situation in this country so contaminated
Yes.
by Chinese interference,
Yes.
with nothing being done about it except like a tiniest slap on the wrist to Han Dong just a little while ago, where they are intimidating Canadian politicians out of the consulate in Toronto, and nothing really significant happened about it. Okay, you know what? Probably right.
We have thousands. It was revealed that we have thousands of operating gangs in Canada that are dealing in fentanyl and hard narcotics. And CSIS, our intelligence community in Canada, thinks that parental rights advocates,
Right.
okay, are at the greatest risk of bringing violence into the country. We have gang members and cartels operating in the country. And if you go to the CSIS website, I promise, go to the CSIS website and just search for the word inclusion. You will die. You will die. This is an agency that's been absolutely co-opted and infested with DEI initiatives instead of keeping their eyes on the prize and doing a good job and keeping the nation of Canada safe. No, Navarro's absolutely right. Kick CSIS out. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Give them a taste of their own medicine. You should, but none of the other Five Eyes should feel confident with the intel that CSIS is providing. That's how corrupt they are.
Also, it should put the rest of the Five Eyes on notice. The UK, New Zealand, Australia. Tighten up your ship. Tighten up your ship, because there's a new sheriff in town and he's not putting up with this. And, you know, like the Canadian military currently lowering their standards, also gone full DEI. So it makes it easier for people who shouldn't be in the military to join the military. We've kicked out all the good people. I shouldn't say that, but we kicked out all the conscientious objectors with a strong moral code when it came to vaccine mandates. And so there are a lot of yes men left in the upper echelons of the chain of command. All of this stuff is very worrying for our security and intelligence partners.
Yes, it is. And it should be. And it should be. When you let your institution be eroded by DEI initiatives, by critical race theory ideas, you're taking your eye off the ball in a way that puts all Canadians at risk. And I'm more than delighted to see this coming out of the United States. I'm more than delighted. This is the beginning of holding their feet to the fire for their misdeeds over these last several years.
Just now, somebody gives me an update to this story. The Hill now reports that the Financial Times got it wrong. So I don't know. We're going to have to wait till Navarro issues a statement himself directly. But now they're saying it was first reported in the Financial Times, citing people familiar with Navarro's efforts in the Trump administration. But Navarro then slammed the piece to reporters, noting the Times didn't name its sources. Here's what he said. My view is that we should never have to comment on any story where it's based on unnamed sources, he said, adding, we would never, ever jeopardize our national security, ever, with allies like Canada, ever.
So it was leaked.
Maybe.
His official, this is his official stance, but his unofficial stance is the other. That's what I get out of this. And this happens all the time.
Yeah, it does.
In media. This happens all the time in media, where the official narrative is very by the book. We would never do that. Oh, we would never think of such a thing. But the unofficial narrative, the undercurrent of the whole thing, the way things are moving, is the thing that gets leaked in the beginning. So that's probably what I'm going to go with on that.
Yeah, I mean, and the Hill still quotes the Financial Times reporting that says people familiar with the situation said Navarro, a close Trump ally, thinks the U.S. should be increasing pressure on Canada by removing it from Five Eyes, the Times reported. It's not known if Trump has heard the idea or agrees with it. So, but he said he told the Hill? No, a Five Eyes official. Sorry. A Five Eyes official then told the Times that removing Canada from the alliance would be very dangerous in a heightened threat environment. Navarro dismissed the notion Tuesday, telling reporters he proposed that people don't pay attention to stories based on anonymous sources. Well, I'm paying attention. And he said, that's all I got to say. We'll talk maybe later today.
Hmm.
Huh.
That's
Well,
interesting.
stay tuned. All right. Let's go into our big congratulations to Jagmeet Singh, because today is Jagmeet Singh's payday. Today, February 25th, 2025, Jagmeet Singh hit the jackpot by officially becoming eligible to earn his Member of Parliament pension. And as I wrote at the time, I believe this was key in understanding his unwavering and otherwise nonsensical support for Justin Trudeau's. Sometimes I forget what I wrote. Support for Justin Trudeau's scandal-ridden government. Canada's gold-plated MP pension scheme is the kind of retirement plan most Canadians can only dream of, especially in these tough economic times, created by those same MPs, by the way. It guarantees a comfortable post-political life for those who've served their country. So his political pension haul, which could amass millions of dollars over his lifetime, it's the real reason for his steadfast support of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And so anyways, he's just became a millionaire pensioner. And so if he loses a seat, and I think he might, he's just going to float off on golden wings.
In the first class cabin of an
Yes.
Air Canada flight. Maybe
Right.
he'll go somewhere else now, because this is a guy that Canada does not need anymore to have any sort of role in public life, not even a little bit. Such a sellout he is.
$2.3 million pension. He did this to us, kept this government in power,
Yes.
allowed them time to replace their leader with Mark Carney, who will probably be worse, turbocharged Trudeau.
Yeah.
And he did this all to us, to get himself $2.3 million. Who was it? Brett Wilson, who was going to fundraise to just pay him out?
Yes.
And if he took
private pension, yes, we will replace whatever you're getting from the government. Just bow out now. And he didn't do that. And you know why I think he didn't take Brett Wilson up on that offer, Sheila, is because Jagmeet Singh is banking on a new deal with Mark Carney.
Yes,
I do believe that what happened in France with the coalition of all the left-leaning parties to defeat Marine Le Pen is going to be something that's floated in Canada now. Because if you add Liberal support and NDP support together, that gets real close to conservative seat count. And I think that desperate times call for desperate measures, especially as it pertains to the left. And we're going to see Jagmeet Singh jockeying for position with Mark Carney or whoever ends up leading the Liberal Party of Canada, because we know he has no ethics. We know that he's morally bankrupt. We know that, even in the face of Canadians dying of overdoses at an unprecedented rate, of tent cities popping up all over the country, of people becoming homeless and addicted, and our entire sort of Western civilization falling apart, he won't act on our behalf. We think that he's going to grow some moral balls now. He's not. He's looking for his next deal. Watch.
Well, and here's why I think the deal is probably already done in the background, is because Justin Trudeau is out there appointing parliamentary secretaries like it's going out of style. And so if you would do that with the guarantee that those parliamentary secretaries would live on after the reconvening of the House of Commons.
That's true. The Liberal Party is not behaving like they've got one foot out the door, do they? Are they? They're behaving like they're in it for the long haul. So
they know something we don't, I think.
I think so too. And we should prepare for some pretty dark days, Canada, if that's the case. If you can just imagine the kind of destruction that they could reap upon the nation of Canada in 6 months. We'll just imagine that extrapolated over a year from October. That's our
Right.
next guaranteed election date is October 2026. I mean,
Right.
the destruction that they could reap upon us is just incredible. And don't think that they're not planning it, because they're evil and bankrupt, and of course they are.
Oh, they've already hinted at it. So they floated this thought bubble multiple times now, and we heard it again last night from Freeland. So and from Carney. So Gould. So 3 times that I know of, just off the top of my head. Karina Gould, who's also running, in case you forgot, and I did a little bit. I was reminded again last night. I'm like, oh yeah, Frank Bayless and Karina Gould still exist. But Karina Gould said we could delay the election because of the emergency situation of the Trump tariffs. Delay the election, but because it's such an emergency, but not reconvene Parliament because it's such an emergency. Okay. And then we saw Mark Carney say that he would use emergency powers to get things done.
Yeah.
And then we heard Freeland say this is an emergency akin to World War II. Guess what was prorogued the entirety of World War II?
Parliament. That's exactly right. Well, if they do that to us, Canada, if they do that, then I do believe America has a good reason to be very, very, very hostile towards Canada. If they defy the Canadian public just to hold on to their last lingering months of power, if they do that to us, then I think America has a really good argument for being very, very firm with us. So, at your own peril, Liberals.
Yeah.
At your own peril.
Yeah, don't do this, Toronto. Don't do this. That's what I'm asking. Don't do this. This next story, I want it injected into my veins, and because it will make me younger, I think. This is adrenochrome for people like me, this story. Get on your bike, says CBC. This is reported in Blacklocks, who do incredible work. It reads, CBC reporters must fight climate change by riding to assignments on bicycles, says a corporate report. The document, I love it so much. Like I said, inject this into my veins as just to keep me young and vigorous, this story will. The document did not mention what action would be taken by managers who take junkets overseas. We intend to lead the Canadian media industry as a whole to do its part to address climate change by working to limit the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. As if you could even measure what the average global temperature is. Like, try measuring the average global temperature of your yard with 10 thermometers placed all over the place. Now try to extrapolate that across the globe, and then you'll realize what a garbage target this is. It's completely made up. The task force on climate-related financial disclosure, that's a mouthful of gobbledygook. The CBC must embed environmentally sustainable thinking in everything we do.
Wait, keep going. Examples include introduction of electric bikes, new and sustainable ways to gather news, and sustainable commuting initiatives such as bike workshops, installations of bike shelters, and the availability of in-house bike repair shops. Sheila, can you believe that the CBC owns, P.S., some of the most egregiously expensive real estate in the entire nation. Okay, in every province, they own a marble palace, like coated in gold, with platinum toilets and ruby encrusted microphones, and they're going to install bike repair shops. Like,
oh, I'm not done. Oh, I'm not done with this
lobby?
story.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
These are people who probably couldn't change a tire on a car too. So the report also recommended CBC script writers work climate references into docudramas. I can't wait to see that storyline shoehorned into Murdoch Mysteries, TV sitcoms, and other productions. The good news is no one will ever see it. Management called it the introduction of green storytelling courses for all scripted programmers to discuss how content creators can incorporate environmentalism into their stories. Now, here's where it gets fun.
This is
The report
hilarious.
The report did not disclose what steps CBC managers would personally take to reduce emissions. Travel expenses detailed through access to information shows senior executives typically fly business class on overseas junkets and hire Uber rather than walk between office buildings in downtown Ottawa. Catherine Tate, former CEO, in a 2-year period billed let's just round it up, $120,000 in travel expenses, including business class flights to Hollywood for, quote, meetings with production industry representatives, end quote. Tate also billed for a European tour to London, Brussels, and Geneva. Michelle Bissonnette, then vice president of French services in 2023, booked business class flights to Monaco with 4 days stay on the French Riviera. Monaco, you guys. Bissonnette also billed $17.43 for an Uber driver to chauffeur him through downtown Ottawa from 1 Elgin Street to 30 Daly Avenue, an 8-minute walk. No reason was given. Let's not forget that Catherine Tate also billed the taxpayer for her French holiday.
Right.
Because she was like, I need to go to the Olympics, as if any of us cared that Catherine Tate was at the Olympics. I mean, it would have been a national day of mourning for Canadians, according to Catherine Tate, if she did not show her hot roots at the Olympic ceremonies.
Well, to hear her tell it, it was unthinkable, Sheila, that her face wouldn't be seen at the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in France. And it just so happened that she was on a private holiday there. It just so happened that she was in the area and spent
But a happy accident.
such a coincidence for Catherine Tate. No, but I can't, like, this is just the absolute best thing that could happen to the CBC is forcing their reporters to get on bikes to do their reporting. Sheila, you'll remember a story in Regina. This goes back on Twitter. It's got to be 10, 12, 13 years ago. There was a bike in Regina that was like powering a light bulb, right? To show people how much. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And the leftists were all like super jazzed. It was in the park. So you get on this bike and just pedal your little arse off and try and light up this light bulb. Anyway, this vapid leftist who is a bike enthusiast and who's like, I would never drive a car. I'm saving the earth. He got on this light up bike and immediately had a heart attack, like right there.
Right, I remember, yes.
Had to get carted off in an ambulance, in a not solar-powered ambulance, if you know what I mean, in Canada. But that was just one of the funniest things that's ever happened, is this bike enthusiast that had a heart attack right off.
I remember it. It was like in 2012 or something.
It was the funniest thing. It was just hilarious. Yeah, and then his life was saved because of a gas-powered ambulance.
Yeah. And I'm sure he didn't want the paddles charged by a guy on a bike, right?
Absolutely not. It just showed the hypocrisy. Anyway, if this is going to get the CBC in shape and a little bit better looking, I'm all for it.
I am here for Andrew Coyne having a bike over to the At Issue panel.
Could you just imagine? Could you imagine him and Chantal Hubert on one of
double bikes? Oh gosh.
Just the thought of it. Oh, we're getting silly. We can tell we're near the end of the show because we get all giggly like this.
We are at the end of the show. I will be back here later on tonight for the Liberal Party leadership debate with Ezra, and I think we've got some rotating guests too. So it'll be a long day in the chair in the little dungeon under the stairs, but there's nobody else I would rather watch with than all of our Rebel News viewers at home. So stay tuned. It will be on YouTube and of course Rumble. And hopefully you can do the same, get involved, leave us some chats, and let us know what you think about the Mark Carney coronation, I guess. All right. I think that's it. Lise, thank you so much for jumping on the show with me today. You are quickly becoming a fan favorite, if my emails are any indication, here at Rebel News. Olivia Efron, thanks everybody who works behind the scenes at Rebel News to put the show together so that it's there for you whenever you want to watch it. Thanks to everybody who watches and who shares our content to get us around Justin Trudeau's censorship hellscape on the internet here. And as my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.